So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are the Hearts of Men, and with me I have the coach, the Mindset Coach, Dwayne Dwyer, also son of Timothy. I don't know if I'm going in the right direction. And he's also known as the Available Man, and I am Poor Man's Dr. Phil, otherwise known as Mr. Shift Happens. It's been a minute. How y'all doing, fellas?
I'm doing good, bro. It's good to see you back. You know, live and in living color.
Got my tan and everything.
Yeah, man. Likewise, it's good to have you back. I'm doing well. Great week. But like always, I look forward to these Fridays, fellowshipping, talking with my brothers, and talking with the livest chat and social media. So all is well, man. I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Man, I'm doing all right. I think I got internet problems, grandkid down there playing that doggone game, and then he got the one on his face, got the one hooked. I'm just going to start snatching stuff out the wall. I don't know. But we going to get there. Ain't no hopefully. We going to get through this this podcast tonight because it's one that I think will add value to the audience, value to us, and just the mere conversation of it is, as I've been thinking about it, throughout the week, I'm like, man, that's something that's going to add something, not just for everybody else, but I'm looking for what it's going to add to me through you guys' conversation and the chat's conversation. And as you guys know, we have the baddest chat on the planet. So I don't see it up on here, but you know who you are. I mean, it's all the regulars. You know who you are. And I'm going to see it's down there low. Now, I'm going to ask Coach if he can go ahead and just run that off.
Yeah, everybody like to put me to work, man. That's right. Listen, as always, good to see you. Welcome to this week's conversation. Again, like I tend to say, man, you can be any place else on a Friday evening, but you are here, and we do not take that lightly. So that being said, as always, we like to call you by name. So if you're out there, whether you're in YouTube, Facebook, whether you're in Instagram, just get into the comment section, say hi, give a greeting that way that we can shout you out by name because we want to give you your flowers now. That said, good evening, Rebirth of Nick. D, good to see you. Crystal Everett, good to see you and welcome. Let's see who else we got. Atlas Keys to Key Realty, good to see you. His Divine Appointment, good to see you and welcome to this evening's conversation. Renewed Consideration, good to see you and welcome to this evening's conversation. Yes, it is Maya, good to see you and welcome to this evening conversation. Miss Robin Brower, good to see you and welcome to this evening's conversation. Chosen One, good to see you. Welcome to this evening's conversation. Phil again, B. I hope I got that right. Philly, I think that's Philly. Man, listen, man, you know who you are. Hoorah! Good to see you, man. Welcome to this evening's conversation. That being said, that's it, brother. I turn it back over to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you everybody in the chat. Now we're gonna start this conversation off. We all start with good intentions, goals, promises, prayers, things we really mean when we say them. But somewhere between the plan and the pressure of everyday life, things start to shift. The schedule gets heavy, the energy runs low, and what once felt clear now feels complicated. And the question isn't whether we love God or care about our growth. The question is, how do we stay faithful to what God placed on us and while living in reality? The reality of bills, reality of relationship, reality of exhaustion, and unexpected detours. Because real spirituality isn't living in isolation. It's lived in traffic, at work, in family, in conversations, and in the quiet moments when no one is watching. And if we're honest, most of us aren't struggling with sin as much as we're struggling with sustainability. So today we're talking about how a person sticks to their goals while adapting to an everyday life, how faith stays firm without becoming rigid, and how discipline stays holy without becoming heavy, and how we walk with God without burning ourselves out. This isn't about perfection. It's about faithfulness in motion. So let's get into it. Let's dive right on into that first question. First question, why do we struggle to stay consistent with goals once real life happens?
I don't know how I muted and unmuted myself, um, but I like this question. How do we, how do we, why do we struggle? I apologize, to stay consistent with goals once real life starts to happen. I think and I don't want to say it's a focus issue, but it's a focus issue in this, because one of the things, and I'm glad you started talking about faith, right, and about our walk, because one of the things that we should learn, the level of resiliency that we should learn in our walk, is that regardless of what's going on around us, we have to learn how to stay focused on the goal, right? How to stay focused on the mark. And I think sometimes when life happens, we don't account for it when it comes time to lay out the cost of going after the goal. You know, we don't we don't count. You know, what if what if I get pregnant? You know, what if not us, but I just gotta put that out there. You know, not here on this platform, but but what women do you count? What if I get pregnant? You know, men, do you count? You know, what if I get injured? What if this thing happened? What if something happens to a child and the bill comes and I need to do this, the car get wrecked? How does this affect me going after what I'm going after? And I think sometimes we tend to take a step back instead of recalculating how to continue moving forward with this, not in spite of this, but because this real life thing, this thing that came up, is a part of the journey, is a part of the mission. And when I accomplish the goal, when I look back, I'm going to be able to tell the story of how I didn't allow these things to stop me. You know, how I didn't allow these things to hold me back. So I think, to answer the question, I don't think we count the cost from the beginning. And so when these unexpected things happen, it kind of freezes us in that moment.
I like that. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. I go a step further, because you hear a lot of people talk about setting goals, and you hear people talking about set goals based upon this or set goals based upon that. And a lot of times what we do is we focus mostly on the outcome. And we don't necessarily do the right thing as it pertains to setting goals or having systems surrounded around those goals and things of that nature. And so a lot of times, even though the outcome would be nice, we're not necessarily closely connected to that outcome. So in essence, we end up setting goals through the wrong lens or from the wrong place. But if we set goals according to our values and things of that nature, now that's different. That's totally different, because now I am more deeply nested into that goal, because it becomes, in essence, a lasting pursuit of who I am. So now in that realm, if I get sidetracked or whatever, and I'm not trying to go, I don't want to go ahead, but if I got sidetracked or whatever, it's easier for me to get back in line because it's nested in my values, and my values become a lifelong pursuit, not just something I do for this particular season or in this particular moment. So going to your question, why? Because it's just rooted in something that's fleeting, and I have not yet made a connection to it.
I like that. I also go to motivation. Sometimes we're motivated to do a thing. We're motivated to, okay, I'm going, like people say, I'm gonna start working out and I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. Then life actually happens, and instead of looking at it and saying, man, I've already developed a system, all I had was mere motivation. If I had a system, I can just rely on the system to continue to work, rather than just my motivation for or desire to do a thing, because that desire to do a thing will get me to the thing, but not necessarily the ability to do it once some type of stressor comes upon me. Because once the stressor comes, then comes discouragement, then comes the doubts, then comes the me saying, well, man, maybe I shouldn't have taken on this responsibility. But if I were to have had some type of system to that was already established, then I could say, okay, I'm actually doing this thing not simply because I want to do it, because I want to do it and I know how to do it because I already have it in action in some capacity in my life. Question number 2. How do we know when to adapt instead of pushing harder?
So going back to, and it's just me building off my previous answer, going back to having goals that are rooted in my values and my pursuits and during this journey of life. Um, when it comes down to adaptation, I have to be able to discern whether or not what is actually happening in real time. Is it a large amount of frustration? Is it, you know, what am I experiencing in that particular moment? Is the things that I'm experiencing in time and space, is it giving me information that I need to pivot? Or is it just me going through the learning and growth of the thing that I'm in pursuit of? Because make no mistake about it, our goals is designed to make us the person that is destined to be the person to obtain the goal. I can't attain the goal right now based upon who I currently am. So now, as I'm going through each milestone, benchmark, whatever that looks like, it sharpens me as a person. It makes me better as a person. It makes me think better. It makes me, maneuver this space in a different fashion. But when we start looking at large amounts of frustration, we look at anger, we look at, discontent, disconnection from certain people. And don't get me wrong, disconnecting from certain people is not a sign of the need to pivot, right? Because everybody can't go where you're destined to go. But by that same token, it should not destroy relationships. I say it that way. It's okay to walk away from some relationship, but destruction is a whole different ballgame. However, I'm going back to the whole frustration thing. If it's a large amount of frustration, I have to be able to discern whether or not that frustration is something that is trying to teach me and move me from my spot in order to grow and elevate, or is it something that's trying to give me information real time that I'm going in the wrong direction?
Whew. This is a good question, because this one actually got me thinking, because when you a go-getter now, some people are just hard chargers. And so when the obstacles come up or things seem to get harder, I think the default setting sometimes is to keep pushing and to push harder. That's just default setting number one. Just wall stood up, try to run through the wall, put your head down, put on your shoulder pads and charge forward. And I think sometimes we can do that, and we can get to a point to where we like, well, I got the thing where I wanted it, but now I got to go back and do some repairing to this wall because I can't sustain where I'm at if I like this. I'm thinking about it like in my head. I'm thinking about it like I got this new house. I said I got this new house and I want to get my family moved in. I pull up the truck and we ain't got the keys and the doors are locked. All right. I got options. I can go find a key. I can go find the locksmith. That would be the pivot, right? That would be the adjusting to the condition. Or I can kick this door down. All right. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in the goal of getting into the house, we kick the door down. All right. But I think sometimes you have to ask the question: is pushing forward, is it going to create a condition that I'm going to have to repair later, that'll cause this to become unsustainable long term? Or is there another option that allows me to get back on course as if the problem no longer exists? Because if I go get a locksmith, change these locks, get new set of keys because we lost the keys and we can't get in the house. Now we continue to move forward. I don't have to go back and do no extra work. I ain't got to go buy no new door. I ain't got to get the side of my, I don't have to get none of that extra work done. I can just continue to move forward. So I think those questions got to be asked. And, another question is, do I have the skill to charge through this thing? Because I might have the skill to get into this door without breaking it down. So, but what does that look like? I'll pause there because I got a feeling it's going to grow some more.
Well, I think with this question, I think we need to look at when we are doing something, whether or not to push forward or to just adapt and change direction or whatever it may be. We need to look at what we're trying to accomplish. If it's producing fruit, stay where you are and push harder. But if you just keep bumping your head against the wall, or you just keep coming up with dead ends and there's no fruit, then apparently you need to change direction and rethink what you're actually trying to accomplish, whether or not this is where you need to go. Don't keep pushing harder to get through something that's not leading to anything substantial. Because sometimes we can do a thing simply because we want to do a thing, or we say, well, I said I'm going to do it. And instead of listening to reason, instead of learning the new way, or instead of looking at it and say, man, I learned a lesson right here for me to do something else. Sometimes we will, just because, you know how we can just want to beat our chest, and simply wanting to beat your chest will lead you to a place where it's no longer about accomplishing the mission, to make it where it's a fruitful thing for the glorification of not just whatever's being done, but it becomes solely about ego, solely about me. And I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. So now it becomes frustrating. It becomes one of those things where it becomes a task and not something that you actually want to do simply because of the joy of making it happen. I don't know if that ran into anything you were going to say.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. I really do. But I'm listening to what you're saying as though I'm 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And you made mention of if it's not producing fruit. But my perception of fruit, money, recognition, so forth and so on. And I think in that regard, because I mean, we know that fruit goes far beyond that. But my perception of fruit is only money, recognition, whatever that looks like, pat on the backs, being uplifted. But the issue is that for those who hear that and they hear fruit and they don't necessarily know for certain within themselves that they're able to identify fruit within the course of this goal, this journey, or whatever that they're pursuing, how would you respond to a person like that?
I think when we look at fruit, like you said, most people, especially when we're looking at young adults, adolescents, we're looking at something like, hey, I need my name in lights, or I need the money, I need the dollar bill, y'all, the cash rules everything around me. I think when you look at it from that perspective, a person can get frustrated and say, man, I got to keep doing it, because if I don't grind, grinding all my life, they listening to this music instead of saying, man, sometimes the first bump in the head can lead you to fruit because it stopped you from going further. So when I speak of fruit, I'm looking at lessons learned. I'm looking at relationships built. I'm looking at things being established where it will help you in life's journey, not just this portion of life. Because monetary gain can help you right now. If it's solely for self, then it shouldn't even be a part of the goal. If it's solely for self, whether it's your money, it's your name, I got to be the big dog. That's solely for self. But when it's, okay, I had the ability where I failed in my mind right here, but I was able to gain a relationship with a brother, and now we have a connection and we can build on other things. Or I found a mentor. I found a mentee. Something that leads to life-changing things where we can sustain one another, not just me. You
Can you ask the question the way you asked it again, Coach?
No, I said I was listening to him, and like I said, I understand what he was saying, but I was listening to him and imagining like me hearing him at the age of 17, 18, 19, 20. And when he make mention of fruit, at that young age, in some cases, a lot of cases really, that their perspective of fruit may be money, maybe recognition, maybe elevation, whatever that looks like. And my question to him, like, what would you say to that person? And I love his response because I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes sense. But I think when you're dealing with a lot of young people, the why sometimes is slanted. And I think even let me not say young people, with young and old people, sometimes our why is slanted. And I think that's why sometimes also we come into like mental uh roadblocks, not just outward, things of life happening. Because sometimes I get on this train of doing the thing, and my why doesn't really align with where I'm trying to go as a person, right? And so now I have to readjust my why, which can sometimes readjust not just what I'm doing, but how I'm doing, how I'm going about it. So this may still be the goal, but my why changed. I want to I want to become an influencer because why? Because I want to make money and I want to be famous and I want my name everywhere. I'm gonna go about it one way, but when I stop and say, because I want to be a vessel, I have to change my why because the person I'm trying to be is not vain. So when that why shifts, sometimes that's the pivot, and sometimes it's here. So I like that.
Sure, absolutely. And in most cases that come with maturity. And I don't want to just eliminate, that type of response from anyone else because generally a lot of times in most cases unless you have that right mentorship and guidance and upbringing to where you have a mature mindset at a very young age, then you'll get to the point to where you'll have that mature why at an early age and then you start that journey. But a lot of times when you're young, you're just looking, as they say today, to get the bag, to have the nice car, to have the nice clothes and things of that nature. That is your why initially. And because your why is so like I don't know, because it is so like low grade. I hate to say it that way. On the scale of value, then ultimately you got to learn another lesson en route. You still may learn some valuable skills. You still may learn, some. You still may have the opportunity at some great relationships. But there's something else that you're going to have to learn that recognizes that people come before money, and not necessarily you use people to get money. So that's a whole nother thing. But I think you're right. A lot of times that comes with maturity.
I think we have a couple of statements or questions in the chat. Could mastery, let me move this bigger. Could mastery be overthinking an accomplishment?
For me at least, I'm in my coach moment in my head where I'm like, say more. Yeah.
And that's when you say could, that's like it can, but it's one of those things where I want to see what she has to add to that, because when you're trying to master a thing, you will find yourself thinking and making sure you got to check the checker, you got to check yourself, you got to do the checks and balances. So there will be a lot of thinking and overthinking to go back and forth. So sometimes you can overthink to a point to where it's a detriment to the goal, because what could have gone right, now you didn't give time, as coach likes to say.
Like, so when my son came to me, he said, "Dad, I want to play basketball." I immediately wish I had more time off in the summer. I like, man, I need to get into the education field so I can have my summers off with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, because really, here's the thing: because you want to come from a kid who didn't grow up playing basketball, that wasn't your thing, and now you want to make the team in high school, right? How do we get there? Because some of these kids been playing all their life, so I got to get you to, at the minimum, to begin to master the basics, the fundamentals. So that means I need you to bounce this ball. I need you to learn how to control this ball, and I need you to learn how to get up and down the court with this ball. I need you to make me 100 layups. I need you to make me 100 minutes. Like you have to become comfortable with this ball, and you have to become so there is it. I don't know if I call it an overthinking, but there's a level of insanity in my way of attacking mastery of this thing, right? So why was Kobe in the gym before everybody else was in the gym 2 hours, 3 hours earlier than everybody else? Because I had to master it. I had to be better. I had to be able to get my shot off. I had to be able to do whatever. So I'm here and I'm putting in more time there. There's a level of insanity that goes to mastery. So I don't know if I would call that overthinking, but you got to, if that's the thing you're trying to master, the way I'm looking at it is you got to be obsessed with that thing.
I'm going to take a different approach. I think it's just the opposite. When we look at mastery is the ability to accomplish something flawlessly without the use of conscious resources. So there is no thinking at that level of mastery because you've done it so many times. It's an old saying that amateurs do it until they can get it right. Professionals do it until they can't get it wrong, right? It kind of taps into the notion of Mushin, right? Mushin means no brain. So at the end of the day, when we look at mastery, whether we're talking task mastery, skill mastery, whatever that looks like, it is the ability to consciously do, it is the ability to do a thing over and over and over again, achieving a higher level of success without the use of conscious resources. So does that involve, and I'll go back to her question because I don't want to mess it up. Could mastery be overthinking an accomplishment? No. There is no thinking when it comes down to when it comes down to executing a task flawlessly without conscious resources. Now, when you look at the accomplishment alone, can a person actually embellish their accomplishment by thinking too highly of it? Absolutely. But I don't think that has anything to do with mastery. I think that has more to do with arrogance.
I definitely agree, because I think someone else put in the comment, and I don't want to mess it up, but somewhere along the sorts of thinking that we have achieved when we haven't really done anything at all, and I think that's what that was alluring to, right? Because I think we do get to that point to where we boast before we've actually accomplished, right? Because I get too high, because I do get that you want to celebrate the small wins on the way to the goal, but I think sometimes you can get too high in the small wins and thinking that that's the accomplishment of the goal, and forgetting like, hey, there's something else to achieve here, like, and I know I keep going back to sports, right? I was in my my New York Knicks group on social media, and everybody in the group were acting like we won the championship when we won the end season tournament. I was like, that's good. It's good to see that we at this point we playing at a higher level than everybody else. But there's a goal at the end of the season that's beyond this goal. So we get so caught up in this little win, and we think we've become. And I love that the Knicks organization said we're not going to raise a banner, because we got a goal at the end of the season. I don't want to get too high on this goal that I forget, because it can become arrogancy, and then arrogancy can create complacency.
Make sure I'm heard. Okay. Now, did we get to that second question? Do we really adapt, or do we just think that we have achieved something when we really have not done anything? That's pretty much what you guys were just referring to. I think sometimes when And I think we've all been there where you feel like, hey, I've made it to, hey, at least. And then you get that when you get that at least, you get a that'll do attitude because at least, and then you can start looking at the next person and say, well, at least I'm not like that person. Both parties didn't reach the goal, but you're happy because you made it further along than the next person. And that's the attitude that we can get when we set goals that we haven't attained because we've either quit on ourselves or we've looked at it and said, man, I just can't do it, or we ran up against some type of adversity. When adversity comes, it doesn't mean that you should stop completely. Sometimes you have to, like all of us been there. Hey, they say, hey, take a knee. You got to take a knee right now. You don't take a knee to stay there. You take a knee to rest and then contemplate and brainstorm. And when you're goal driven in life and you have a goal, if you haven't met that goal, you haven't attained that which you sought out. That means that it's not finished. And sometimes you may think, oh, it's too hard and I'm pushing through. No, sometimes you just lazy. And for real, we got to look in the mirror and say, man, I'm being lazy. I'm trifling and I'm not doing my part. So, and I can't blame everybody else. Just like this, I can't consistently, oh, well, my internet messed up or this, that, and other. No, because even if my internet goes out and I'm not here, you guys have the material, you guys have the questions, you guys have the knowledge to continue this thing on so that it continues to move forward. So, that old saying, one monkey don't stop no show. We don't have any monkeys up here, but we have individuals that are intelligent enough to make sure this thing goes without one person being there, without two people. If it's just me and coach, if it's just you two, hey, the train still moves.
This train gonna keep on, bro. But I don't know if I would lay. Yes, lazy is but I think is the byproduct of my why is not strong enough. Right? If my why was strong enough, it would be the engine to push me past lazy, right? And what I mean by that is like my why does not out supersede my level of comfort right now, right? Because I remember when it came time when I was trying to get into the army and I was trying to get up out of that condition. I knew I wasn't a great test taker, but boy, I was at Barnes and Noble every day. I ain't never been in a Barnes and Noble in my life, but they had the ASVAB test thing. And I was in there making copies of it because I wasn't buying the book. Making copies of the practice test, making highlights. I was, I was putting in I've never studied in my life, nor after, like that ever again. But my why was stronger than my condition. My comfort level didn't supersede my why. So the why caused me to push so that I can get to that goal, which was, hey, I need to achieve certain scores. I want to get certain jobs. I want to do so. I went after it. And when I went to take that ASVAB, got a 108, went back, got a 111 again, and I didn't do nothing with that 111. But still, it was just a goal. My comfort level wasn't great. So I think sometimes we're in a place where it's like, I want to achieve this thing, but if I don't, I'm good. And that second part of that statement is what causes the laziness. I think the laziness becomes a byproduct.
So for everybody who don't know what the ASVAB is, that's the test you got to take prior to going to the military. My brother like to use acronyms up there, and we do understand everybody don't know what that means. But to this question, I think two things can be true at the same time. I believe wholeheartedly that there are circumstances, and we see it all the time, to where adapting is necessary. And you ultimately adapt to maintain the status quo because something in the environment has changed that made you adapt. So there is no change in your life. There is no change in your circumstance, but you had to make a small adaptation, so a small change. I say it that way. You had to make a small change to your day-to-day outcome just so that you can maintain. But then I also believe, on the other hand, you have those who are, you know, intentional about growing, intentional about achieving higher, elevation. And because of the things that they're encountering along the way, they're having to make any small, they have to make micro adjustments along the way, whether the micro adjustment is to their interpretation of what their goal is, or whether the micro adjustment is based upon how they want to do the thing. But one way or the other, they have to make an adjustment in order to continue to move forward. So that's why I say, when I look at this question, I get it, but I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that there are situations where people make small adaptations, and there is no change, nothing was accomplished. But then I also believe that there are circumstances where you adapt for the sake of a greater change that you have been working towards.
Definitely, definitely. And I think, Gaddy, you're kind of leading into where I'm thinking into the next question, because I think sometimes, especially if I'm a younger person, because I've dealt with trying to be a young entrepreneur and looking at how they always ask you, well, what's your why? And it always comes back, when I was younger, to money. Like, money gonna solve all my problems. If I get this money, I can get mama out the hood. If I get this money, I ain't worried about this car being broken. If I get this money, the kids will have what they want. So let's ride right over to question number 3. Can discipline be spiritual without becoming legalistic?
Bring it up again for me one more time. Okay. Without becoming legalistic. I tread carefully around that word, uh, because everybody has a different marker of where legalistic starts, right? And so I think whenever we you, use labels like that, it it depends on where you lay your marker. Like, oh nope, that's when it becomes legalistic. Um, but discipline is spiritual, period, right? The whole concept of walking with Him and is becoming more like Him, which means I have to become less like the world, which is discipline, because I didn't come to the Father overnight. I've adapted some things of the world in my daily living. There's some habits I picked up. There's some statements I make. There's some foods that I eat. Some things that I've done that I've taken from the world. And so now that I'm coming into this walk, shedding these things is a part of the discipline. When He begins to make you over and change your desires, right? Can you drop the desire to stick with what you're used to? Because I think sometimes that's that comfort we talk about, right? Can we get ready to be uncomfortable? Because that's when the change happens. Like, I have to become uncomfortable with the things that I'm used to doing, so that I can begin to put on the things of the Spirit. And so, but you know, Romans 7 tells me that the law is spiritual. But so when we start talking about, that's what I'm saying. What are we talking about legalistic? Because is it just simply what's written? What's the mark? Or is it, to where we're so legalistic we forget what the goal of the law was, right? Because that's definitely a thing. So I'm a yield, because I can ramble on this one.
I think I love what you're saying there, because you're right. I think the confusion behind this is that when people see the term legalistic, it's an automatic shutdown. It's an automatic turn off. It's like, oh no, that's just wrong, 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 wrong. I don't think the term legal and spiritual is separate, for starters, right? And when I say legal, I mean, I'm referring specifically to law. You cannot say that spirit and the law is separate. There is this thing that the Bible references, the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, understanding the difference between the two. So I will sum it up by saying it like this. If my desired outcome is compliance, then I think we're in the wrong arena. If my desired outcome is transformation, then I think now we're seeing where it meshes, right? Again, if compliance is the goal, that's legalism. If transformation is the goal, the spirit of the law, that is the goal from what it is, what we should be looking forward to. So now that makes me, because I remember this phrase, and you guys heard it. You know, you can't be so, what is it? You can't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. And I think it's very interesting when I hear that, because at the end of the day, if you pay close attention to what the Bible tells you, the more heavenly minded you are, the more earthly good you are. That's really what the truth is. So we'll mix things up and we'll say certain things because it sounds really good, but at the end of the day, the the idea of that the law, like Gaddy said, the law itself is spiritual, but the issue is that I'm carnal. So I need the transformation that happens within me so that the spirit makes it possible for me to be able to keep the law. That's how it works. So when we look at this whole notion of, separate the two because one is wrong and one is right. No, both of them is right. You just have to reconcile in your mind where you cause the divide, because that's always the issue.
I'm glad you took it further, because I was, because that's where I was standing at. Like, so what? Because if we're just talking pure definition, that's exactly where I was standing. Like, the law is spiritual. So, but are we talking about that we're so? Because I think we get to the point to where we're looking at how the Pharisees were. To where it was no longer the law. You were saying what the law said, but what you were doing was not what the law intended. We were outside of what, like what you said, we were outside of what the spirit of the law was. And so now if that becomes legalism, that's legalistic, because you made the law seem like it was so harsh that I couldn't hold that yoke upon my neck, when he said his yoke is easy.
See, I love where both of you guys went, because I think that being legalistic is fear driven. If I don't do this, or if I do this, like when I was growing up, because I was doing crazy things, my grandmother, she is straight up telling you going to hell. Like, God, dog. So if I'm already going in my mind, I'm like, I might well go with a bang, So I think when it's legalistic, it's fear maintains it. Well, you better not do this. You can't do this. When people talk about what you can't do more than what you can do, it's because they're trying to push them and how they see things on you versus how you should, because there should be a growth and a maturation process. I shouldn't expect for a baby to be where an adult is. I shouldn't expect for them to eat the same things. But what we do is we say, well, this is what it says because we learned 2 things yesterday, so we're going to push it off on someone else. So, but when we say spiritual is loving, is kind, is understanding. So if you aren't, now, okay, let's talk about this. Let's try to grow together. But I'm not sitting up there agreeing with you in this thing, but I'm understanding enough because I've been there in some capacity, maybe not even the same thing. So with the question, I think the law and the spirit do connect. They are one and the same. I think the intent of the deliverer can be what makes it legalistic. And that's where if somebody came up to me, like I came up with the guy, I seen you with that pork chop. You over there, you eating all that food, you glutton. And, I start pushing off things of how I see it. Now I'm coming in judgment. I'm not coming in love. I'm not coming to lift the brother up. I'm coming in condemnation to condemn him to where I think he is not. And it's only showing where I am. That's why when Christ was writing in the dirt and he looked up, everybody was gone when he told them people to throw the rocks if you are without sin. And yes, I'm paraphrasing, but because none of them could stand and they knew it. So if they knew it, we can't sit up there and stand in judgment, even though we judge. We rightly judge by what he said. And I don't sit up there and judge to the point to where I'm sitting up there like, okay, like let me watch and see what got it. He ain't producing no fruit. It's not up to me. I'm not his fruit inspector. So I think that when we try to separate the two, that's when the legalistic part comes. But when we allow them to come together and marry, we see they merge and make a great union and a better offering for the both of us. And next, how do we integrate spiritual goals into everyday routines instead of treating them like extras?
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but just do it. I mean, do it. How? Do it. That's it. I mean,
Like you said,
yeah, like Nike said, just do it. I mean, make it a part, like make it a part of your calendar. Make it like alert. Set alarms. Do whatever it is you got to do until it becomes a habit. I think that's the thing. I think what we're talking about is habit formation at this point. There are some people that say it takes 21 days to form a habit. It's some people that say it takes 66 days to form a habit. I don't really care how many days it takes to form a habit. Just form the doggone habit. Be intentional about doing it. Prayer in the morning is essential. Prayer throughout the day is essential. Prayer in the evening is essential. If you need a reminder to remind you to pray, do that. Make phone calls, talk to people about spiritual conversations. Don't get on the phone gossiping. Don't do all this other extra stuff that you know that'll knock you off your square. Be intentional about those things. Prayer, fasting, having spiritual conversations, being around people who are intentional about their walk, being in the right relationships with the right people. Like those things are intentional. Like it's easy to get caught up in the social media world and you just want to, I'm just going to go over here and see what they're talking about today. And next thing you know, you get caught up on this and you get caught up on that. And now they're talking about this and you got this going on and this person being sued because they did this thing and all this. It's too much. You got way too many distractors going on in your life. Eliminate the distractors. Be intentional about what it is that you're trying to do. Form a new habit to do the thing. Put yourself around people so that they can actually help you grow in that direction.
Oh, you said a mouthful there, Coach. But you right where I was heading at with it. Like attack it like you attack your carnal goals, right? When you plan to start that business, when you plan to meet that fitness goal, when you plan to get that promotion, when you plan for that education, it becomes a part of your daily routine because you make it a part of your everyday routine. You do it so much. You do everything that Coach just said. You put it on your calendar. You create your vision board. You got your steps. You got step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each minor goal in the major goal. And so it's like when I'm looking at, do I have goals in the scripture or do I just want to look more like him? Anybody ever said, I want to learn how to fast. I want to learn how to pray and reach the Father. I want to know how. You get what I'm saying? Like what are our goals? Is it just, I hear people all the time say the same thing. I want to read the whole Bible in a year. What verse you read today? And that's and instead of trying to, and I like that Coach and said, just do it. If the goal is to read the scripture, wake up and read it. Read it before you go to sleep. You take that 15-minute break to go sit in your car and get on Facebook. You could have got in your car and just make it a part. You have to make it a part of your routine like you make everything else a part of your routine. I see jokers sit at work doing classes for college. But you tell me you can't go online to blueletterbible.com. I know we ain't here trying to, I'm sorry, we're not promoting nobody, right? But and read the scripture while you're at work. You got time to do everything else? You ain't got time to read. Oh well, I don't. I'm at work and I don't want to waste it. Yes, you do want to waste your time. You just don't want to waste it on that. If that is if your spiritual goals are interrupting your regular life, then my question is, how important are those spiritual goals to you? And that's even to myself. How are those spiritual goals important to me if they are an interrupter to my life?
I think we need to stop framing our minds to think that there's a separation in us because we do it to ourselves. Spiritual goals instead of me saying, man, I'm a spirit being. So all of my goals have to be that way. So now everything that I do, now I'm trying to walk a certain way. I'm trying to talk a certain way. I'm cognizant about how I treat people. When I'm driving down the street and somebody cut me off, I don't flip them the bird. It's like, and it's like that whole patience thing. People think that they're going to receive patience without some type of trials, without some type of adversity. But when you look at self and say, man, I'm a spirit being, so all of my goals are spirit led, are spirit in nature. So everything that I do is spiritual, not just when, oh, let me go ahead and put my hands up. Let me not laugh at what's the oh boy hanging from the ceiling with the Christian Louboutins and stuff.
I was trying not to say that, but that's what
Right.
I'm talking about when I said the lawsuit.
and that was, to me, it was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, he is exposing a lot of foolishness that's already been exposed, but people are mad because they're talking about it. But when you're spiritual, I'm not concerned about somebody else's foolishness or somebody else doing something, because I know that my intent is always to edify, always to be in that spiritual capacity. So I think that when we frame our minds from not separating the two of us, because once you say, well, I'm doing this and I'm spiritual and I'm doing that and I'm not, now what you're saying is that I'm a double-minded man, so I can do this on this hand and then I can do this on that hand. Just like I remember two preachers were getting into it, and then the one said, well, we can go across the street. He's like, what we gonna cross the street for? He said, because I ain't gonna do this. I ain't gonna say this on church grounds. I'm like, what, on holy ground? I'm like, what? Like, what? What does it matter? Go on and fight so I can see this. I didn't even have a phone back then. But no. But and that's my take on it. You redefine your goals as ways of being and not just things that you do. It's who you are. And once you do that, now it becomes your everyday practice. So now you have little micro things that you do to grow yourself. Okay, see, boy, I know I'm on it now. I got both of them like, yeah, see, I've been gone. I've been missing you brothers.
You see, I was gonna ask a question. I'm like, nope. I was
Man,
gonna
ask the question, man. You know I'll be waiting on it.
no, because I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole if I do. So I'm nope.
Come on, he already called us monkeys. We can be rabbits too. Come on. Yeah.
No, man, I'm gonna hold off. Y'all good. Go ahead.
All right. Next question, please. What role does rest play in staying aligned with our goals?
I think, unpopularly, I think this is probably one of the most important roles in staying aligned is learning when to stop and pause. I think it was I know Coach be having different buddies jump in there when I'll be mixing them up. But was it Steve? Is that his name? Stephen?
You talking in chat?
Yeah, Stephen Kyle. Yeah, but he talked about taking that combat pause. He put that in the chat somewhere. But you gotta know when to stop and when to not just. So let's just talk about the importance of rest, right? People don't understand. Like we talk about the Sabbath, and we try to figure out the Sabbath is, what day the Sabbath is, but the word that he created is rest. And how important is rest? He rested. I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, and this is why I made the Sabbath important to me, because that's the one commandment out of all commandments that I can see in Scripture that the Father himself kept. He kept it. First thing after he made all things, he rested. And so if he needs to rest, Because once he made us, now he neither slumbers nor sleep. So but so why don't we see the need to rest? We'll work 7 days a week if we could, but you have to have a time to pause. He created that for you. The Sabbath is created for man, not man for the Sabbath, because you need to rest. You need to recharge. You need to you need to gather yourself up in between when you're in the gym, in between your reps. I get some people just go hard for 60 minutes or 2 hours. That's okay, but your muscles need to rest. Need to breathe, get some oxygen, take some deep breaths, and then go at your next set. But at the same time, there's also a period of reset, not even just a reset period, but there's also a period to where you have to look over everything that we've already accomplished and look at how do the plans still look the same going forward? Given what we have learned, what we observe from what we've seen so far, do we need to adjust the plan going forward? And so you got your different aspects of taking that pause. So now I gather up my intel. I look over this. I spend time and I've remapped the layout. So now I can go back after this goal, not just with a refreshed mind and a refreshed body, but with a refreshed plan. But now I'm gonna let the expert go. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna sit down.
Oh no, I'm no expert here, bro. Not on rest. It is of very high importance. I would tell you, I'm one of those people. I wake up in the morning, and early in the morning, I already know if I'm going to take a nap. I'm with you, Robin. I'm going to get me a nap. That's just what it is. I think a lot of times we feel like we're doing something wrong if we take a nap in the daytime. Take a nap. Take a midday nap, doggone it. Tomorrow, if you ain't got nothing else going on, you sitting home. Be intentional. Take a nap. There is studies that show that when you have a proper amount of rest, and that's not 8 hours, y'all. It's a whole nother conversation I'm not going to get into. But as long as you have the proper amount of rest, you are more productive when you go to work, right? That does not mean stay up all night playing video games, watching the late show and all that other great stuff. That means going to bed at a certain hour and waking up at your prescribed hour so that you can do the prerequisites that you need to do to start your day. Rest is just as important as eating. I hate to say it that way, but that is the truth. Rest is just as important as eating. It's not that I'm saying that you can't fast, but trust me, if you live anything longer than 20 years, you have gone X amount of hours without sleep because you was probably out hanging out with the fellas or hanging out with the girls or whatever the case may be. You've fasted from rest. I guarantee it. You've deprived yourself from proper rest simply because you've been out there trying to, live the good life. Okay, now let's turn the scales. Let's apply the certain amount of rest, eat the appropriate amount of food, don't overeat, overindulge, and then watch what your body does in response. I promise you will be amazed at the outcome. That's probably a high degree of some of the concerns that we have. We don't have a proper diet and we don't have proper rest. But then when we try to work, we're doing things sluggishly. We don't have the proper thoughts that we need to have. Our brain isn't firing off at the right cylinders to give us the ideas that we need to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. So when you deprive yourself from those things, your brain is not at its optimal performance. Therefore, now you're just a warm body going through the motions, and then the results are you were just going through the motions. So rest is just as important as eating.
Exactamundo. That's what he used to say. I think when we look at rest, like you said, I'm one of them people where it's like I fight naps like I'm a doggone kindergartner or something. I'm like, I ain't gonna do it. And then I'll sit in that chair and then I kick that chair back. Next thing you know, I'm waking up an hour and a half later, feeling better, feeling refreshed. I think that sometimes we confuse urgency with importance. If I got to do it, I got to do it, I got to do it. Is it that important that you can't take a nap? Is it that important that you can't take a knee? I think sometimes we put ourselves in situations, as both of you guys just said, that if we were to have rested, we could have had clarity of mind. we could have been thinking properly. Because when you don't, when I was in, I think it was BNOC, we had like 48-hour operations or whatever. BNOC is basic non-commissioned officer course, but it's a military course when you advance and in rank. And we had 2 days where we couldn't sleep because they're trying to see how we would operate when we are sleep deprived. Because now you start making mistakes. Now you start doing things you normally wouldn't do, because now your thinking patterns are off because you're trying to keep up, but your brain wants to sleep, your body wants to sleep, and yet you have to keep moving. Sometimes we put ourselves in that state where I got to do it. I got to do it right now. Because I'm a person where 9 o'clock, 9:30, I'm going to bed. I don't care what nobody. Gaddy knows. Gaddy used to be talking on the phone. I'm asleep. Gaddy still talking. I wake up and go to bed. Gaddy still talking. He wasn't talking to me. I'm going to sleep though, because I know my body naturally wakes up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And people are like, well, you go to sleep early. I wake up earlier than everybody else.
For the record, it'd be the days he called me too. I just want to put that out there. He'll call me, then go to sleep on the phone.
Hey, but that's one of the things where rest is essential, just as Coach said. It is just as essential as food, because it's something that you're doing for your body. Food you're doing for your body, just as rest you're doing for your body. Food is fuel, but rest is that relaxation period, allows that food to go through your body, allows that food to become nourishment. And so you need to rest. Slow down. Take your time. Take a knee. Take a nap. Because if you don't, I was told that if you don't rest, your body gonna rest for you. So sometimes you'll be doing something, and I don't know about you, but we've all been in a situation where we were driving and we woke up like, man, how did I get home? And sometimes, and I'm not talking because of any type of inebriation, I'm talking because of sleep. Getting off of staff duty when we had 24-hour operations, and then you driving home like, man, let me just pull over, because I've driven from here, from Texas to Michigan, and like, man, I got to stop in Arkansas or something. I got to stop here and there because the body needs rest. So yeah. Next question. How does self-awareness help us steward our calling better?
I jump on this one, man. Like, and I love that you say how, because it definitely does. So self-awareness, in today's world, I think is the biggest struggle. And because the biggest struggle with self-awareness is if you're not self-aware, you don't realize you're not self-aware. Right? Because is not having that is not having the ability to know that yourself needs work. Right? And so if I'm stewarding my calling, right, I cannot move into a calling assuming that I am already ready. So we say certain things that sometimes can be good, but at other times, depending on who's receiving it, can become bad, right? So we'll say things like, he don't call the prepared, he prepares the call. And so some jokers will say, well, this is something I want to do, and he prepared me, I'm gonna jump out there and do it. Now you know good and well. You needed some time to sit up under somebody before you jumped out there thinking you're supposed to pastor a church. I know jokers getting their licenses online trying to get in somebody's pulpit, right? People laugh, but this is serious. Like this is what people are doing because they've taken it. Well, if he called me, I'm just gonna do it this way. Well, and whatever this calling that you believe that he has called you to do, there is something that has to be done to you first. All right. So I'm glad that you have the awareness that he is moving you to do something for the work of the kingdom. Right. Now, what does that look like? Because here's the thing. If I move outside of preparation, I make the kingdom look bad. Because I'm adorning his name and I'm moving forward out of order. And now, even if I begin to lead people, I'm leading them out of order. And now I sit back and I'm wondering, how did we get here? And because I don't have that self-awareness, I'm not even wondering. Other folk that know better looking at me saying, what in the world happened? We talking about the dude that we saw with the harness on coming through the ceiling of his church, like he Chris Brown at a concert, you know. And yeah, I know we saw Drewski make fun of that guy too, right? But how did we get there? Because nobody became here's where I believe part of the self-awareness when it comes to our calling comes from. It's because we don't know what is entailed in that calling, because we don't know what his word says about said thing. You may think you called to do something and the scripture says absolutely nothing about it. And trust me, there's nothing new under the sun. So you didn't make up a new calling yesterday. You didn't make up new standards yesterday. It's written. He's given us the examples and he's given us the blueprint. But do I mirror the man of God of the scriptures before I get out there and saying I'm a man of the Most High? Or am I somebody that needs to continue to grow? And so when we talk about self-aware, what role does it play in our stewardship? It is the role. You have to continuously continue to make yourself over, right? Like Paul sits and said, I'm one who was born out of due time, because he had that he became self-aware. And then if you don't have self-awareness, let me just put it like this, just from the example of Paul, if you don't have self-awareness that you're not in alignment with what you think you're called to do, my question is going to be, did you even have that encounter first? Who called you? Because if your calling allows you to move out of order, who called you? I'll leave that right there.
It is very hard to be self-aware when you're self-absorbed. I'll start there. The concern with self-awareness that I believe that some people encounter is that they believe at the stage or at the point that they were identified to do a thing, however they were identified, whether they got, and I'm just going to use this as an example to kind of lead into what I'm saying. Well, just because you got the title does not necessarily mean you have the maturity that the title is requiring to have. Having the title or being aware that you're going to obtain the title is one thing, but there is something that happens between the time that you become aware and the time that you are appointed into that position. And that right there is a humbling experience that happens within you. There's a lot that you learn about yourself if you allow it to happen. But the problem is we keep focusing on the title. And every time you meet somebody, that becomes your lead in statement about who you are. You're trying to impress people with your title. I am this. I am that. I am nothing without him. So when we look at this whole notion of self-awareness, and I think one of the most important words in that question is stewardship, which means that I have a responsibility to not only do the thing well, but to actually create. You got to go back to Hebrews chapter 11, right? Everybody understand it, the faith chapter, right? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But I think stewardship is next. It says, by faith, the elders obtain a good rapport. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about elder poor man Dr. Phil, whether we're talking about elder son of Timothy. It doesn't matter. But because of the position of elder, they come in it with a good rapport. Now they have a responsibility to uphold the rapport that the mantle of elder require. See, I don't think a lot of us think about stuff like that. We don't think about the stewardship and what it really means. We don't think about what our own personal responsibility is in this relationship that I have with the Most High for the thing that He put me in charge of doing within my own little realm that He gave me. That's a responsibility. That is the identification of a relationship. And I think too many times we have this entitlement when it comes to relationship. And we'll talk more about relationship tomorrow morning, right? But we have this entitlement because I've obtained the relationship. Now there's nothing left for me to do. I'm here now. I've arrived. All hail me. No. Humble yourself and sit down for a second and recognize that you're in the relationship to serve. That's what the calling is all about. I don't care what the title comes along with it. The calling is all about you serving. You can be pastor, deacon, elder, evangelist, whatever other type. It's all service. You are called to serve the saints and to find the ones who are thirsting for Him to actually move them out of the world into the kingdom. But here's the deal. For each and every individual, we all have to be aware of self. And I cannot be aware of self if I'm so in tune and absorbed with self that I can't even see the things that within me that you are telling me. And then I automatically reject it when you say, hey, brother D, can I holler at you real quick? No, man, I'm busy. I got to go, I got to go do this right here. But I just need to talk to you real quick. Okay, what's going on? Man, you might want to look at, man, you know what you're talking about. When you get here, you let me know. What? Come on, y'all laughing because y'all heard it before. I'm just saying that's some of the stuff that you hear. It is mind numbing. So I hope Roland can talk and he looks stuck, but that's why that's why I'm gonna land right there, man. You can't be self-aware when you're self-absorbed.
And I love where you went. And when you were talking, I was thinking about David. I was like, David was king when he was Jesse's boy, but he had to grow. He was still king. He had to grow and go through some things, and so that he can learn, hey, it ain't about me. And sometimes, and we all, sometimes we all got to go through that learning phase where it's not about me because, sometimes we can think, oh, hey, I'm in the gym every day. I'm doing this and I'm living this. And so now it starts to be, as Coach was just saying, that self-aware phase. I think that being self-aware allows me to focus on the goal, but my portion of the goal. Because sometimes we can say, well, it takes a village. Well, it's not your responsibility for everybody. And sometimes we have placed more on our backs. Well, I got to do this and I got to do that. And you keep saying all these I's, saying what you got to do. And it's on you and it can't move without you. And now you become that self-absorbed person because now in your mind, they can't move unless you make it happen. So we have to get to that point to where we look at it like our calling doesn't equate our capacity because our capacity is limited. And if I'm dependent on me, I never sit up there and say, dang, let me sit down and say, hey, coach, I need to pray for me. Simple things. We won't even go there. Only that, hey, I need $100, coach. We'll go there. But when it comes to the things that matter, the things that's going to help build me from inside out, I ain't calling coach. He got too much going on. So now it's all about me again because I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look the part. And as coach broke it down, we're talking stewardship of this thing. That means I have a responsibility to manage it. It's not mine. I'm managing it. So I'm managing my time. I'm managing my efforts. I'm managing my study. I'm managing these things all for him. But I look at like, I ain't got time for that. I got to do this and I got to do that. So now when I step back and I say, okay, I'm self-aware, which helps me discern, or I'm thinking about the calling and I focus on that. So now it's all about the calling. When I look at calling, when you see, what's his name, Drewski, he talked about people who so-called walk in calling, not self-aware. Because when you're self-aware, I'm not gonna tell stories and say he called and told me in the dream that it's 15 people down here that will go give me $70,000 and you got to give it in 15 minutes. He's not gonna do those lies. And then I'm gonna get mad when people expose my lie. So it's like, come on, what do we do? Do we deal with charlatans or do we deal with truth? So when we're looking at being self-aware says, okay, bro, you got some things to work on. It's easy for me to look at everybody else and say, look at them. They ain't doing it right. Look at this church. Look at that church. Look at that. Look at how they're doing it. And once I start doing that, I'm not looking at self. I'm looking at everything but self. And it leads me to the point to where I'm about to fall. Because me not looking at self allows me to lift self up. And so now I become prideful. And when you become prideful, full of pride, that's when yours is coming. And I don't know.
If I may, real quick, because it's real short, because I love the word stewardship, because when I talk to captains and lieutenants about it every cycle, like we spend a great deal of time on that. And I think something that we have to understand, like there is an apprenticeship phase, and then there is a, finally you've graduated, matured, and now you would be kind of like the master of said thing, per se, in so many terms, right? The apprenticeship phase is where you learned under somebody else on how to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Go look at Elijah and Elisha, right? You're learning under that person. But then when you move into it, you're still probably going to bring some of those things with you. But then that's when you grow into your own. That's why I am always, I'm always against when people say, well, do it your own way. No, you can't do it your own way. You have to learn the way to do it first. Then you can do it, right? But you have to learn the way. I say it again, you have to learn the way. Stewardship is all about making a thing better than what you found it. So now, just using the example of Elijah and Elisha, Elisha had a responsibility of elevating what Elijah taught him when he was in his apprenticeship phase. That's how stewardship is. So whoever you learn under, regardless of what that looks like, sure, at a later time, you can elevate it once you get into it. But your responsibility in that apprenticeship is to learn, ask questions, right? Then when you get out on your own, now the question that you ask to, you can call back and get wise counsel. You can pray and ask the Most High. And between that, you should be getting the same flow. And then now you get the elevator. So that's what stewardship is all about. We think stewardship is all about just continuing. No, it's not continuing the work. It's elevating the work.
I love that you said it, because it invites humility and teachability. That's simply it in a nutshell. Because when I'm humble enough to say, hey, I ain't got to, Gaddy always joke with us about our age difference and everything, but it's some things that Gaddy could teach me. So if I'm too humble, I got to be, hey, well, I'm my age and he's his age. What he going to teach me? He can teach you something if he's living out what he's talking about. So it's not an age thing. It's a discipline thing. It's a, if he's stewarding what he needs, then I got to sit up and say, okay, can I receive correction without me crumbling, without me falling short, saying, man, well, forget it then. If I'm going to say forget it, then I was never in it in the first place. If correction come, when correction come, it doesn't matter high or low, it's correction. It's not, well, you can't tell me nothing. No, he can tell me something. So when we're looking at the stewardship part, when we're looking at the self-absorbed, I have to be self-aware so that I can look in the mirror and say, am I doing it right? Or if I'm not doing it right, how can I do it better? Who can I place in my life to help me get to where we are trying to go? Not because it's not me on the road by myself. I'm in a race by myself, but I'm on a road with others that are in this race by themselves with me. if that makes sense. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of we went towards the end of that, because that's what self-awareness does for me. It allows me to see where I need to grow. I think the reason why we don't, I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna see the carnal things that makes me look better and determine whether or not I can take advice from you. You know what I mean? Your beard might naturally grow the way it grows, right? But because I want a good healthy beard, I'm like, I'm not gonna go to Coach. I'm gonna go to Roe. But how do I know Coach didn't have the bald spots like I do back in the day, and fixed it? And Roland's his just always grew like that, right? But that's a part of my self-absorbedness, right? Because I want my head looking like that. I'm going to him. That brother didn't do nothing for that, right? Like, and I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying, but that brother didn't do nothing for that. His grew like that. I had to work to get my little scrubble, right? And so, but when I know what I need and I know what I need to do to grow, when I've actually taken inventory of my own walk and my own life, then I know where I can get my lesson from. When this young man walks up and begins to speak, I can hear and I can say, hey, he has something I need, because that's what I'm missing. It's exactly what he mastered. Let me go over here and talk to him. I've been driving for a little while, not for a long time, because some of y'all from the South have been driving since y'all was 2. I've been driving since I was 19, right? And jokingly, but not joking, right? I've been driving since I was an adult, right? But there's a 22-year-old mechanic that just driving for 3-4 years that can teach me how to work on my car better. But if I don't know that I need to know how to work on my car, I'm not going to go to that mechanic. Right? So because I know what I need, I'm going to that man that has mastered it. And so I think that takes out that whole can't no youngin teach me, stop it. Get some help. But that to me, when I hear self-aware, that's where I go with it. Like I'm taking inventory. It's not just, I know this is what I'm called to do. That your self-awareness is not knowing what you're called to do. All right. Your self-awareness is knowing what you need to do to get there, to walk in that calling. Is knowing that you need that time as an apprenticeship to learn, to grow, to get the skills, to master the different arts. Right? You want to be a preacher. Oh, I was called to preach. Preaching is more than, you may know 1,000 scriptures. You might even know the Bible better than me. That's fine. And I'm not saying I know the Bible better than anybody, right? But that's fine. But it's the art of articulating what he's shown you, in that. Have you mastered that? Oh, you haven't. You get up there and you sound like you don't know what you're talking about when you do, but you didn't spend that apprenticeship time to learn how to articulate what you're trying to get across. That's a part of it. And there's a word for it, but I'm gonna keep moving.
Next question, please. Try to run through this. What should we do if and when we fall off track?
Get back on track. Look, man, I'm not trying to be funny.
I knew it.
I can't listen. I wish this was a written test. I passed this one here all day long. I'm not trying to be funny. Get back on track. It's not if, it's when. That's what the reality is. It's not if, it's when. If an opportunity presents itself for something to happen, 9 times out of 10 it's going to happen. unless you already are consciously aware of how to overcome said problems and you plan for contingencies when those things show up. But at the end of the day, like we talked about in the beginning, if your goals are rooted in solely the outcome and you're driven by motivation, when these things happen, not only will you get knocked off track, eventually you'll get tired and you're not going to want to get back on track. And you will be like those people who make those New Year's resolutions to lose 20 pounds at the beginning of the year, and come February 1st, you're not in the gym simply because you fell off track. It's not rooted in anything concrete, rooted in values, so forth and so on. So now when you get knocked off track, sure, it's just a minor setback. It's just a hiccup in the road. It's just a speed bump, whatever the case may be. But it's easier to get back on track because it's rooted in your identity. It's rooted in who you are. It's rooted in what you're striving to do. So don't be getting caught up or wrapped around the axle about, oh, well, what if this happened? Listen, let me be the first person to tell you, so the what if that you're talking about, it will. So when it happens, you need to already have already resolved within yourself that I am going to get up and get back on track and keep moving.
And yeah, I don't want to stay there too long because I want to hit this next one. But James 1, read James 1. You can start at 1, you can start at 2. It says, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation, knowing that read James 1. Next question, please. Why must goals be rooted in values and not just outcomes?
If they're not aligned with your values, you're going to eventually jump off track, right? You're not going to. So let me preface by saying all of the values that you call family values, or my grandmama, my mama taught me, are not your values if they're not in you, right? And so this doesn't go for people who will come around and say, well, I was able to accomplish this. That wasn't aligned with my values. They weren't your values. They were just something that you learned. It was something that, and I think what we do with values is sometimes, and same thing that people do with their relationship, with their so-called relationship with the Father, is convenient when it's necessary. And it's good when it's needed, but when it's not needed, it's a burden to them. And so, how can I live my best life and hold on to these values that Big Mama taught me, that Granddaddy taught me? I have to let those values. And so, I think that's what happens a lot of times. So, if those are the values, those are the things you truly believe in, it's going to take a lot out of you to set goals for yourself that draws you away from those values. That if it's something that you truly hold dear, if it's the values you strive to live after, I can't set goals to go do this, and this is what I believe. This is why I tell people I don't think that these folk truly believe. I'm not gonna say I don't think. I know they don't truly believe, because you're not going to tell me, and please don't get us counseled, Father. But you're not going to tell me God designed for you to go jump on a pole so you can pay for college, and that was in God's plan. You don't believe. You ain't got. Stop playing with me, and you playing with the Word. You playing with the Father, and every time somebody says something like that, I'll be wanting to say you stupid. Because you want me to say something ignorant, because you said something ignorant. I know ignorant ain't the word, but I've been in the South too long. but that's, to me, that's really where I sit with that. If it's not in line with the values that you truly hold dear, it's going to fight against you internally.
Yep. I agree. Hey man, that was my last answer. I literally answered the question the last time I spoke.
And I'm satisfied with that, because it is what it is. That's one of those where it's like, I know we say common sense ain't common, but it's like when you're striving for something, things like mine and things where that's common to this, it is what it is. You don't have to, as they say, beat a dead horse with something, because and you know how to move, especially when we talk values, when we talking sustainability, when we talking being self-aware. Those things that when you look in the mirror and you say, "Okay, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know if I'm going in because I'm on my screen, keep doing some funny stuff."
Yeah, it sounds
And
like Empire Strikes Back right now. You sound
I'm
like
trying
RK.
to I'm trying to keep my composure, but Coach face, man, I
I don't have a
can't.
poker face, man. I'm sorry. I can't.
I can't.
that's what I was looking at. I'm looking at Coach like then he would go in and out.
He like, my bad, my bad.
You still there?
No, I think we lost him for a moment.
All right, I tell you what, let's do this. That being said, this brings us to our bittersweet moment. Our final thoughts. All right. As always, I greatly appreciate this conversation. When we look at the topic for this conversation is most people get this wrong about failing goals. I believe, first and foremost, one of the things that we get wrong about failing at goals is number one, the goals that we establish. I think we establish goals from the wrong place. I think we establish goals with the wrong outcomes. So, first and foremost, understand how to establish goals. That's number one. Secondly, I would say failure. You need to get in your mind, and you heard it tonight. Failure is not failure. It's just setback. It's just a minor setback, but most importantly, it is feedback. It is information that you need about yourself, about your system, about your process as it pertains to the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So again, remember, failure is not set. It's not a huge setback. It's just really feedback. Failure does not mean that you have a lack of discipline or desire. Again, recognize it as information, nothing more, nothing less. Success is also built on grace. That's key. Success is built on grace, not just grit. That's the other part, because I think sometimes we have this grinded out mentality. I'm gonna just put my nose down and just keep working hard and I'm gonna get there. No, there's a lot of grace that you're going to have to encounter. I didn't make it 24 years in the Army just off of grit. Trust me when I tell you, there was some grace along the way. People who know me, they know. Last but not least, and I'm gonna leave this here, and I allow somebody else to chime in and leave some more. But consistency comes from connection, not willpower. You have to be connected to the right thing. You have to be connected to the right people. You may have willpower, and willpower may sustain you for a period of time, but it won't take you through the duration of time. And those are my final thoughts.
Man, I appreciate that, Coach. Appreciate you, Ro, for this topic, for the questions that you hitting hard on this one. Most people get this wrong about failing goals. Is that you failed the goal? I think that's something we get wrong. I don't think you failed the goal until you completely surrendered unto it. I do believe everything that Coach just said, right? That sometimes it's the outcome. And here's something that I always talk about when we talk about goals. Is for me, it's the pre-work, right? How much research did you do? I think sometimes, like Coach said, we map out the outcome improperly because we don't know what the outcome is supposed to look like. Once again, did I take on a mentor in this field? Or am I just good at what I'm setting out to do? Did I seek even if the mentor is not good at my craft, they may be good at the business aspect. Teach me about business, teach me about building infrastructure, teach me whatever that goal is, right? Teach me, I want to be a singer. Anybody ever taught you about about stage presence, about handling the entertainment world? Like these things, I must be able to, because I don't know what that outcome looks like. And so when I set this goal, there's the expectations are not realistic in that aspect. So I always talk about doing the work ahead of time. So because I did my work ahead of time, and now I mapped it out better, right? And I went after it, and I failed. Does that mean that I don't believe that failure is failure until I actually give up on the goal? Because what do I need to do is when I fail, I need to go backwards, observe what happened, and take all of the data, all of the research, all the information that I have about everything that I did leading up to the point of failure, so that I can go after and attack this thing again. I can make the proper adjustments. I have the lessons learned. The more that I do a thing, the more that I am into a thing, the more I learn about the thing. Right? And so I made some people, I like to cook, but my food may just taste good for me and my family. When I make it for everybody and they don't like it, I'm listen to the reviews. Listen to what people saying. Listen to what, because now it's just beyond me knowing how to cook. It's me knowing how to cook for the public. So I'm taking in that data, that information, and I'm applying it to the thing that I'm doing. And then I'm going back after this goal. I never stop going after it, because this is all a part of the process. Failure is a part of the process. It's not failure. It is data collection. The first time you went after it, that was data collection. Now that you got the data, now we can readjust, and now we can continue to push forward after this thing. So when you look at the goals that you're going after and you didn't achieve them, you didn't meet the time marker, maybe you didn't need to put that time marker on it. Maybe you just needed to achieve the goal. Maybe you just needed to obtain the information. And that's all I have on them.
All right, got a text from Roland. He can't get back on. So that being said, listen, we appreciate you guys staying longer than normal with us. We pray that this conversation served you, and hopefully it helped somebody. So that being said, make sure that you forward it to somebody else who you think that will find value in it. If you got young adults, send it to them. Hopefully they'll find value in it as well. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m., there's the Hearts of Women. Make sure that you're here, because I think there'll be another great conversation. And do not forget, it's pinned in the comment section on YouTube. January 31st is the webinar that we have. Also, it's here. Scan that QR code. January 31st at 10:30 a.m. It's going to be a good webinar, so make sure that you're there. That being said, listen, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else, and we'll see you again next week, same time, same channel here on the Hearts of Men.